I work for an event planning company in a small city. My job mainly involves driving a truck loaded with equipment and supplies from one place to another, often late at night. While it's not the worst job in the world, the hours are brutal, and it's not what I ever imagined myself doing in life. By the time I get home, I'm either too wired from coffee to sleep, or I pass out the moment I hit the bed and sleep for 12 straight hours. One night, I was driving home at around 2 a.m. It felt great to be back in my own car instead of the company's heavy truck. As I was nearing my house, I realized I had probably had too much coffee and wouldn't be able to sleep. On top of that, I hadn't eaten in hours and was starving. There was a McDonald's just off the highway, about 10 minutes from my house. It was my go-to spot for a late-night meal because of its convenience. I wasn't addicted to fast food, but sometimes I really craved hot, crispy fries. McDonald's was open 24/7, and I thought a bit of comfort food would be perfect to help me relax. I don't remember the exact time, but it was definitely past 2 a.m. when I pulled into the drive-through lane. There were a few cars ahead of me, which surprised me a little. After all, this McDonald's wasn't usually busy in the middle of the night on a weekday. As I waited for my turn, I started looking around, trying to figure out why it was taking so long. That's when I noticed something strange. At the far corner of the parking lot, an old Volkswagen with dark tinted windows was parked oddly. Since McDonald's was only serving through the drive-through at that hour, there was no reason for anyone to be parked there for so long. I thought maybe someone was eating in their car, which wasn't too unusual. I had done that myself a few times. But something about this car made me uneasy. I got my food and drove off. I didn't want to go home right away, but I also didn't want to just sit in my car doing nothing. I started thinking about where I could eat. I lived in an area with a lot of forests and parks, so there were plenty of options. However, I didn't want to go too far since it was already late. Nearby, there was a large nature reserve on a hill. Its main attraction was a scenic overlook at the top, where you could see the entire city at night. A small road looped around the reserve, leading straight to the overlook. During the day, it was easy to drive up, but after the reserve closed, cars weren't allowed in. However, it was still possible to walk up. I had been there many times with friends back in high school. It was a great spot to relax, chat, and enjoy the fresh air. I hadn't gone back in a long time because of my busy work schedule, so I thought stopping by for a bit might bring back some good memories. When I arrived at the parking lot of the reserve, it was completely empty. The lot was really just a wide gravel area next to the main road. I had just turned off my engine when I saw headlights approaching. A car pulled into the lot. My feeling of unease grew as I realized it was the same Volkswagen from McDonald's. I was 100% sure of it. I parked a little away from the other car and turned off my engine. I tried to reassure myself that it was just a coincidence. My window was slightly open, but I couldn't hear any sound coming from the Volkswagen. No music, no movement. I sat there for about a minute, trying to assess the situation. Maybe they were just there to relax or smoke. But it was so late, and the situation felt off. I started wondering if I should just leave. I pulled out my phone and video called my close friend, Marcus, who lived not far away. I figured if he was still awake, I'd ask him to come over so I wouldn't feel so uneasy. Luckily, Marcus answered. He was working on his computer and agreed to meet me there in 10 minutes. When Marcus arrived, I felt more at ease. The two of us got out of the car and started walking up the trail to the overlook. Before the parking lot disappeared from view, I glanced back. The Volkswagen was still there. Then I saw all four doors open at the same time. 4 men stepped out. They stood there for a moment, looking at each other without saying a word. The sight was unsettling. I quickly nudged Marcus, and we kept walking at a faster pace. We reached the top of the hill and sat on a small stone wall overlooking the city. The night view was beautiful, and for a moment, I felt more relaxed. Then we heard voices and laughter coming closer. 3 men appeared. One of them was holding a joint, his arms covered in tattoos. They stopped in front of us and offered us some. Marcus and I both declined. One of them smirked and called us cowards. I blurted out asking if they had just been at McDonald's. Immediately, the mood shifted. The tattooed guy stared at me before pulling up his hoodie, revealing a McDonald's uniform underneath. He said he worked the night shift and came here after work to hang out with friends. While his explanation sounded reasonable, something still felt off. As we decided to leave, Marcus suddenly stopped and pointed toward the forest. I followed his gaze and saw the fourth guy hiding in the shadows, holding something in his hand. The moment he realized we had spotted him, he started moving toward us. Without hesitation, we sprinted down the trail. When we reached the parking lot, we jumped into our cars and drove off immediately. The next day, we went back to McDonald's and told one of the employees what had happened. He was shocked when he saw the photo we had taken. It turned out the guy had worked there before, but was fired for stalking and harassing his ex-girlfriend. Apparently, the police had been involved, but he kept showing up around the area. Hearing this only made me feel more uneasy. I just hoped he wouldn't recognize my car or figure out where I lived.